After more than 6 years of bloodshed, the UN Security Council has heard about so many atrocities in Syria. The latest attacks, bombardment of civilians, including the targeting of hospitals. Acts of escalation by the Syrian government and its Russian allies in what's supposed to be a de-escalation zone. British and French diplomats have described it as unacceptable and appalling, yet the words of the UN's own special envoy were markedly less harsh.
For the first time since April, some airstrikes, some allegedly hitting civilians and civilian infrastructure, including health facilities.
Human rights groups say there's nothing alleged about it.
I think there should always be talk about what happens after the conflict ends, but it's not ending right now. What we saw last week, as I said, was direct hits on hospitals as the start of intensive bombardments of civilian areas. So what that tells us is that this looks like a strategy to punish the civilian population and take out the hospitals first so that healthcare is impossible.
The UN is trying to reconvene talks in Geneva. The man who many believe torpedoed previous rounds of negotiation by refusing to discuss political transition was in the council chamber. Syrian ambassador Bashar al-Jafri is his country's chief negotiator. Mr. de Mistura put pressure on him, but his toughest words were reserved for the opposition.
No one is asking the opposition to suddenly stop being the opposition, but we are urging the opposition to realize that it is most credible and effective when it stands together and shows readiness to negotiate, which means give and take.
The High Negotiations Committee position is that they are the only legitimate representative of the opposition, and it's definitely true that some of the other groups that call themselves opposition have in the past had close contacts with the Assad regime. In a famous quotation, Winston Churchill once said, "History is written by the victors." And it may just be that's what's now happening in Syria. The Russian military helped the Syrian regime turn things around militarily, and it seems there are some who now want to give them the upper hand in the diplomacy to end the war. James Bays, Al Jazeera, at the United Nations.